Welcome back to Rocky River 4x4, and today we're going to be working on Jebel's brake master cylinder. Now, I'm going to go over how to diagnose your brakes. I'm going to go over how to bench bleed your master cylinder. I'm going to go over how to uninstall and reinstall the brake master cylinder. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. So this is your reservoir, and that metal cylinder right there, that is your brake master cylinder. Now on Jebel here, it's apparent what the issue is because you could see that there's a leak and it is eating away at everything below it. It eats away at paint. That's why you could see little paint flakes right there. And you can see all the essentially rust that's formed because brake fluid is corrosive. So as my first warning, while you are doing this, you need to be wearing gloves. But if you don't have the easy diagnosis like I did, I'm going to go inside the Land Rover and show you how you can essentially diagnose it for whether it is the brake booster, which is this component, or if it's actually the brake master cylinder. So let's go inside Jebel and show you a few tricks. Alrighty, so we're inside Jebel and I have you clearly looking at the brake pedal. What I'm going to do is get all the extra boosts out, make sure there's no extra assistance and it's just my mechanical force. Now, what we will do is we're going to press the pedal as hard as we can. If, when we turn the vehicle on, the brake pedal gives us a little bit more movement, that means that the brake booster is doing something. So that will help us eliminate if it's a brake booster or a brake master cylinder. Now, I'm not saying that you can completely eliminate it because it might also be the brake booster, but if it is at least doing something, the pedal will move. Now, if you don't get any movement, you could have both problems. You could have a brake master cylinder problem and a brake booster problem. But in our case, it is not the brake booster because, like I showed you earlier, it is all rusted and leaking and all these other things. And I will show you another thing you could do to help eliminate if it's a brake master cylinder or if it's a brake booster. So let's rewind a little bit. I'm going to show you guys what a working brake booster looks like. So pay attention when I turn the vehicle on. Now I got as much pressure as I can on this brake pedal. When I turn the vehicle over, we should get some more movement. See how I got about 1 to 2 inches more of movement? That is because the brake booster is doing something. So now that the vehicle is on, I'm going to show you how to kind of narrow it down to the actual master cylinder itself. What the brake will feel like is spongy, and it will feel like you can just keep going until there's no more essentially movement in the brake pedal itself. What should be happening is once the brake pads touch the brake rotor, you should stop. You shouldn't be able to keep going. The reason why you can keep going, and you can't really look at your brake pads touching the brake rotor, but what you'll notice is that it'll start to stiffen, but even after it stiffens, it just keeps going. So spongy brakes and just unlimited movement. So you can kind of see and you can kind of hear a little bit too. But once we press that brake pedal, we could just keep going until there's no more brake pedal movement. You shouldn't be able to push it to the floor. It's not your gas pedal. You should start to feel stiff brakes about there. You should start to have some resistance. I don't have any resistance. I can literally push this with my finger, and then about right there is where we actually start to feel resistance. And so that's where I actually need my foot to keep going. But you can see I can press it way past what it should be allowed. So that is another way to diagnose the brake master cylinder. Alrighty, so we're playing floor mechanic because I don't have a bench vise. Now, if you have a bench vise, please do it in a bench vise. I'm going to show you how to do this, kind of like tailgate medicine or shade tree mechanic, I guess you would say. But what we'll do is we're going, and I already kind of got ahead of you guys. This came with plugs. I already put the plugs in where the brake lines connect to the brake master cylinder. We're going to fill this up, and then we're going to push this plunger a few times, and I'll talk about it when I'm doing it and how you do it. But start off, plugs in, and let's fill this up. Now, I'm going to put some gloves on because the brake fluid is corrosive. And of course, this will be oh so much easier if you have a bench vise or something to hold this in, but we do not, and we will do it this way. So we're going to fill this up all the way to the tippy toppy of it. Now, don't fill this up without that little mesh, essentially strainer. You don't want any gunk or goop to be introduced into this. So we will kind of fast forward this a little bit while I'm filling this up. Alrighty, now that the reservoir has been filled, what you're going to do is you're going to press this in about, let's say, 1 inch to 2 inches, and then you're going to hold it for 15 seconds. All while making sure that you don't flip this over or that you let any of the air bubbles that sit on top of this get introduced down below. So we're going to press it, and it's going to be hard, and you will have a little bit of oozing out of these plugs. That's a good thing, and to also make sure that you don't get it on you. So make sure it gets over a catch pan and not on you by using gloves. So we're going to press it. We're just going to kind of hold it for 15 seconds. And then let go. And we're going to do this a few times until the resistance is so strong that you really can't do it by hand. Alrighty, so now there is significant resistance. I was able to get it about 1 inch to 2 inches. I mean, you could really press this in before, but now I can barely get it pressed. I got to use all my strength to get just that. So it has been bled. Now that it's been bled, 2 things. One, don't flip it upside down. Don't try to get to the air that's up top down low. You want to keep this oriented to the, to the sky. So what we'll do is we're going to go over back to Jebel. We're going to leave this right here with it kind of sitting up properly. And this is kind of where you need a bench vise, because this is where, it would help. But the air is still up here, even though it's kind of tilted. The bottom portion of this reservoir, you can see, is still completely full. We're going to go over to Jebel. We're going to take off the old one, and I'm going to show you a few tricks on how not to get brake fluid everywhere. So we're back at the one that's installed. We're going to do a little prep work. We're going to essentially empty the reservoir that's in there, lay down some type of, I have a t-shirt that I'm using, and so that when we start disconnecting everything and stuff like that, the brake fluid doesn't get everywhere. This is very important to do. Do not skip this. This is something that you must do. Now on mine, this is the brake fluid, like warning system, I guess you would say. It just indicates when it's low. Sometimes this is in the cap, sometimes it's mounted to the side of the reservoir. So for one, make sure you do disconnect that and get that one kind of out of the way. And then we can finish doing all of this. Okay, so now that this is essentially separated from everything else, what you're going to want to do is take off your cap, and it's real simple. You could just use some type of siphoning method. You don't have to get this completely dry. You just essentially need to get the majority of it out, because once you start disconnecting these lines, all the fluid's going to start rushing out. So as long as you have very little, and you should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to siphon this out. I'm going to be using essentially this. I'm not going to show you how I do it. If you know what siphoning means, you'll know what I'm going to be doing. So let's go ahead and get this empty, and then I will show you guys how to disconnect this and get this removed. Okay, so we got the reservoir empty. Now you might notice this. This is to help it from siphoning out. Essentially, I'm creating a seal by placing the garbage bag, or not garbage bag, the grocery bag on it, and then putting the cap back on and make sure it's tight on there. That essentially acts as a seal, so that when we crack these two brake lines, this one, and I don't know if I can get you down there. Let's see. Yep. So this one and this one, we're going to take these two brake lines off, and it'll help the whatever's left in there to not start siphoning the rest of it out. And that's just another protective layer of, making sure you don't make a mess. Now, just because I have two doesn't mean you won't have 3 or 4 on your vehicle. It all depends on your make and model. But I do want to say is that you need to remove the brake lines first before you remove anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to remove the shirt so that you guys can see the 2 bolts that hold up my brake master cylinder. Okay, so we got the brake lines off, and I kind of repositioned the shirt so that I can show you these 2 bolts. But make sure that you do have some type of protection, because once you start moving this around, it will start to let go of a few more droplets of brake fluid. But most of these brake master cylinders only have 2 bolts. It's going to be right here, and on the other side. I can't get that angle. Right there, you can see it is, give me a second, right there. You're just going to remove those 2 bolts, and then if you remember from the other one, there's a piston that goes inside the brake booster. So when you go to pull this out, you're going to pull it towards you and then up and out. And I will go ahead and do that, and I will show you guys what you should look like after it's all emptied and everything's out. Alrighty, so we got it off and out, and I just want to show you guys kind of what you want to look for while you have the brake master cylinder off. You want to look inside and make sure inside of here that there's no damage. You could see right here and right here on the outside that this brake fluid that was leaking was kind of eating away at this. But what you want to make sure is that it didn't get on the inside. You can, if you get a good angle, depending on what make and model you have, you can most likely kind of just take a peek at an angle in there. I shoved a flashlight down there and a rag to make sure that there was no buildup of any fluid or anything like that, and there wasn't. So luckily, the leak was only leaking on the outside of the brake booster and not on the inside. So I think this brake booster is fine, like I said earlier in the video. And what I'm going to do is the opposite of what we just did, which is slide the new brake master cylinder in there, put the 2 bolts on, and then reconnect these 2 brake lines. And I didn't mention this before, but try to clean up this surface and try to get all that brake fluid that was leaking off of it. Try to clean up your brake lines a little bit. I'm going to do that real quick and then circle back to you guys and show you guys kind of the end result. She's all squared away. So what we're going to do next is we're going to test it to make sure we can tell the difference. And we also need to bleed the lines. I'm not going to teach you guys how to bleed lines. You can look that up. But we want to make sure we get all the air out. And then we're also going to check for leaks. But besides that, this is the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.